Hello and welcome to the executive floor of the Transcorp Hilton here in Abuja, Nigeria, with me, Charles EBUNE, from the capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Roughly 9 years ago, a son of the continent, Tony Elumelu, founded the Tony Elumelu Foundation. 5 years after, and plus, the foundation decided to develop a program on entrepreneurship for young Africans with an ambition to produce a decade of sponsoring, mentorship, and providing financial assistance to young Africans. The number, 1,000 of them each year. But that is even more than expectations. So what has been the contribution of this program in providing seed capital and training to young Africans? The founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, Tony Elumelu, thank you very much indeed for accepting to be guest on WHCH and from the Cameroon Radio Television.
Thank you, Charles. Good to meet you again.
With me are some of the best newspapers on the continent, be it the Sunday Telegraph, be it the Nation, be it This Day. These are all newspapers which publish a day just after the latest theft 2019 forum. What were the key innovations this year?
I think it's all about the little empire we're trying to create and make across Africa in the young Africans. I think that is what I believe others found extremely unique and significant. So if you ask me what is unique about 2019 Tony Elumelu Foundation Forum, I would say that it is the fact that first, it's our 5th anniversary of the entrepreneurship program, even though the foundation is 9 years old. And two, or secondly, is the fact that we were able in 2019 to support over 3,500 entrepreneurs. Our commitment is that every year we will support 1,000 young African men and women to empower them and make them become entrepreneurs so that collectively all of us will develop Africa. But this year, we scaled up from 1,000 to 3,500. And to a large extent, this is because of the new global partners who also share in our commitment to developing Africa in a sustainable fashion, who share in our vision and commitment to empowering young Africans, whom we believe will be the new phases of Africa's development. So together we were able to do 3,500, and I think that's why you see the kind of reaction that is coming.
You just spoke about partnership. I know that in the course of the program, you entered a deal with the Senegalese government and many more other partners. What has been the course of these partnerships?
For what we're doing, it's not just about training, just to put it in the right perspective. We're training, we're mentoring, we're providing seed capital, non-refundable grant of $5,000 to support them. And we're also creating networking platform. And now we just created a virtual digital platform for young African entrepreneurs, both those who are beneficiaries of the Tony Elumelu Foundation and those who are not beneficiaries, just to create this to enable them interact with one another, share ideas, share frustrations, as well as explore new avenues to sell their products and services. So this is what the entrepreneurship program is all about. This year, we were able to broker or attract development partners because every year we have a lot more young Africans who want to benefit from this program, who want to help, as I see it, in contributing to our development through entrepreneurship. But unfortunately, we get to select only 1,000, which is a decade-long commitment of $100 million to supporting 10,000 African entrepreneurs in 10 years, 1,000 every year. But this year, we went out to our friends across the world to say, listen, we have so many young Africans that need your support. and that we need to rethink how you support Africa. You should invest in the young ones who will help ultimately to develop the continent. And that if you invest in the young ones and they succeed, they will create jobs, because we have joblessness on our continent. And if you create jobs, it will address the issue of young African migrating, trying to cross the Mediterranean, to go to look for, in quote, better life. So that they heeded, and I'm happy to say they, starting from home, the African Development Bank supported 1,000. Then we have United Nations Development Program, UNDP, 760. We have the International Red Cross, about 200, and so it goes on. But we also have, which is a new development, African governments now also supporting their own young entrepreneurs. Yeah, sure. So Benin Republic, for instance, supported 150 Beniners to be on the program. So we're beginning to see all hands coming together, development partners, local country government, and all making sure that they play a role in helping to capacitize and support our young Africans. That is what we're excited about.
This year's turf saw the presence of at least 3 presidents: the president of Rwanda, of Senegal, of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, including the Prime Minister of Uganda, the Vice President of Nigeria, to give kind of governmental support to the work you are doing. From Cameroon, President Biya sent plus $50,000 to provide logistics so that the seed capital of the Tony Elumelu Foundation for the roughly 102 entrepreneurs remains intact. What comment do you make about that?
No, you can see how goosebumps, but I'm so impressed. This, my big brother, President Paul Biya, has been wonderful. He's been extremely supportive, of what we do, and I'm happy to hear about this wonderful gesture to the young Cameroonians, and I want to say a big thank you to President Biya on behalf of the Cameroonian entrepreneurs who came on the program, on behalf of all young African entrepreneurs, because they need this kind of support from our leaders. They need support like this. They need the right operating environment so that they can succeed. Last time I was in Cameroon, on the invitation of the president, again, it was all about small and medium-scale enterprise, how they can become the engine of growth for the country. So this is a good gesture. I would say let's keep it up.
Okay, let's talk about the impact this is creating. What kind of feedback do you get across the continent? In which areas are some of these your entrepreneurs exceeding so well?
They are doing very well. All sectors, from agriculture, fashion, education, technology, ICT, they are doing very, very well, and they make me proud. They make my colleagues at the Elumelu Foundation, who work tirelessly day and night to make sure we support them. They make everyone proud. And they also, in my viewpoint, are a good example to other Africans, young Africans, to see that there are more decent, honorable ways of earning a living, and that in the 21st century, we should, I include myself, but I will work very hard to make Africa a better place and to create the right image and narrative about Africa. So I'm always happy when I go outside the shores of Africa in engaging with my friends and global partners to say, see what's happening in Africa. Young Africans, forget the information you get abroad. These young Africans are energetic, brilliant, intelligent. They want to succeed. They struggle, and the world is listening. And you did talk before about Senegal. Yes, we signed a partnership with Senegal because that's another demonstration of African government supporting the young entrepreneurs. The president of Senegal first, President Macky Sall, was there in person, and as you also said, the Rwanda president, Paul Kagame, was there. The prime minister of Uganda, the president Felix Tshisekedi was there, also from DRC, and a host of the president of Nigeria, President of Nigeria was there, and other dignitaries,
President of African Development Bank, the General of the World Health Organization, and many more others.
The incoming CEO, President of the incoming Director General of European Commission, and he said what he said about helping to support young Africans. I like what he said, that what happens in Africa doesn't no longer stay in Africa. So the world is listening, and hopefully he wants to mobilize resources alongside the Elumelu Foundation and local partners to help to develop this, support these young Africans. And of course, the International Red Cross was also represented by the Executive Vice President. This is, if I were a young African at a time like this, I would feel very encouraged and hopeful that the world is finally listening, from within, from us. And this is what I say to my colleagues at the Elumelu Foundation, that they should see themselves as being part of history. They are making history, orchestrating a new movement, a movement that will help to develop the continent, because what we do at the foundation is not just about the 1,000 people we are supporting. It's about creating a continental platform that will attract investment to these young Africans who will help us to develop the continent. So what government like Benin Republic, government like Senegal, and what President Paul Biya did in Cameroon, these are great efforts, and in fact even DRC too sponsored about 6-7 of them to come. So we welcome this, and we want African leaders to continue to support and prioritize our young ones. We want them to help create the enabling environment that will enable these young ones to succeed, because that is much more important than the capital we provide to them.
Recently, you signed a partnership with the United Nations Development Program to train within a decade 100,000 more entrepreneurs. I know that there was somehow misinterpretation on social media about this new partnership, and specifically targeting the first implementation process. 7 countries of the Sahel zone are mostly hit by terrorism. Is this your strategy to fight insurgency and extremism on the continent?
I think extremism, in my viewpoint, is a product of poverty, extreme poverty. And I believe that if we deal with poverty, we'll address most of these issues, challenges from migration issues, extremism issues, insecurity problems at home, and on and on. So our intervention in the development of Africa is to support young Africans, empower them, because as you know, the population of young Africans is huge. 60% of our population is under the age of 30. So we need to do something. This is what the United Nations Development Program and the Elumelu Foundation decided to do, to work together to empower 100,000. Let's scale up. So we wanted to do 10,000, but from UNDP said, we can work with you to do 100,000. That's wonderful. And they are starting, as it is with the journey of 1 mile. You start with the first step.
You start with it.
Yeah, so the first step is to say, let's start with the Sahel region. And Sahel and the Lake Chad region, the 7 countries, Niger, Mauritius, Chad, Nigeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Cameroon. Let's start with this. And so that's the first announcement. But of course, you don't blame young ones. They are eager. They want to, they want to be impacted and affected or touched. So they are like, what about us? Even Nigerians, I'm from Delta State. Some people are saying, why is starting from part of Nigeria? Why not starting from Delta? But the truth is, we realize that the poverty is a threat to all of us everywhere, so we must do everything possible to alleviate it. So it's not just, it's not a local thing.
We are roughly in the middle of the program. You committed yourself in mentoring, training, and providing seed capital to 1,000 young Africans each year within a decade. You have already spent $25 million. Are you going to meet the target in about 5 years from now?
We spent far more than 25 million. So we spend money on the entrepreneurs, we spend money on the forum, we spend money on the staffing, so we spend quite a lot. As you know, we've done half year, half mile in the 10-year journey. But the point for me is not even the money we spend, because I believe we will end up spending more than that. But the point is about the impact that we create, and that's what I always emphasize more than every other thing. And how to possibly scale up. That's again why we're entering into the partnership with all the development bodies. We spend a lot, even moving to see them, to engage them, to convince them. And in all of this, we also provide the training. Even when they support more people, provide the training, the mentor, and everything for these people. You see, for us, it's all about playing our own role in helping to develop Africa in a manner, as I keep saying, that's sustainable. It's not just about giving grants to people, and every year they come begging and waiting for grants to provide them. We want to make our young ones become fishermen, we want to make them employers of labor, we want to make them succeed, because we realize that it's not big government or corporations or grants per se that create employment. What creates sustainable employment is the small and medium-scale enterprises. The more they succeed, the more you have prosperity and inclusiveness in local economies. So that is the objective. How far? So far, so very good. What do we think about the future? We look at into the future with a lot of optimism, because if when we started 5 years ago on this journey, we are now 10,000 support entrepreneurs. UNDP alone, working with them, we're talking of 100,000 10 years from now. Because people say at the end of your 10 years you committed, what next? But you can see from UNDP, 10 years from now, the European Commission, the European Development Authority, the African Development Bank, the coalition we are building is huge. But I want to thank our partners, those who are on board now, and those who I believe will come on board soon, because the ultimate objective is to do a lot more. We need to scale, we need to impact. If UNDP are talking 100,000, then 1 million is achievable. The future is promising for young Africans. They should not despair. The operating environment might be difficult, but our presidents are also listening, and I think we'll have a glorious future ahead of them.
Just outside the Congress Hall here, I equally met the Director General of the World Health Organization.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, thank you very much for exclusively talking to the Cameroon Radio Television.
Thank you for having me.
I think one of the biggest health concerns on the continent today in Africa is the Ebola virus, which is terribly affecting the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with roughly plus 1,400 people already confirmed dead, and you declared it a global health emergency. What is the exact situation on the ground now?
The Ebola outbreak started in August last year, and it's almost a year now. And of course, before this outbreak that started in August, there was another outbreak on the western part of DRC. The western part of DRC, like Bandaka, Bikoro areas, were affected. But that didn't take long to control. In 3 months it was controlled. And the reason is, in that area we were only fighting the virus. It's a relatively stable area, and there were no other complicating factors, so it was taken care of in 3 months. So it started May 2018, and by end of July it was over. Then this outbreak started immediately after we controlled the outbreak, the Ebola outbreak in Western DRC. As you know, this outbreak, which is happening in the eastern part of DRC, is different from the west, because in eastern DRC there is war. It's a war zone, and there are many armed groups there. And not only that, the outbreak overlapped with election, local election, and that also one of the reasons that complicated the outbreak, because there was political tension. And when there is lack of security, the response is disrupted.
So what is the situation on the ground now, according to the World Health Organization?
So the situation, the situation now, as we speak, is still confined in the two provinces. That's what I was going to tell you. As you know, these are the North Kivu and Ituri provinces, and as you have said, more than 1,500 deaths as we speak, but contained in the two provinces of DRC. As you may remember, around a month ago, some cases crossed to Uganda, but that was taken care of, and there is no local transmission now in Uganda. And there was 2 weeks ago also one case found in Goma, and that's also taken care of. So still the outbreak is confined in the two provinces. And then there is more clustering in Beni, so most of the cases are now coming from Beni and Mangina area, while Butembo and Katwa, which were previously the hottest centers of the outbreak, are showing a decline now.
That issue of Ebola exposes the problem of financing health in Africa, and the African Union just held a meeting about financing health on the continent. Is that an initiative that a former high-profile personnel from Ethiopia welcomes at the head of the World Health Organization today?
Yeah, by the way, before we go there on Ebola, I think it's very important if your audience understands that this Ebola outbreak is different and more complicated.
Okay.
Because of the war and the security problems. Because
Absolutely.
when there is security problem, the response is disrupted. When the response is disrupted, the virus gets advantage and spreads freely. So that's why this outbreak actually took longer than last year's outbreak in Western DRC.
Okay.
And now we're strengthening the enabling factors, especially security, and we hope we can make progress in the next few months. But in addition to that, maybe related to your question again, the reason we have now public health emergency of international concern is when one case made it to Goma. As you know, Goma has 2 million population. It's a commercial center, but at the same time the outlet of the Eastern DRC to the outside world.
Okay. How you feel about the conference that was held to finance health in Africa, which was organized by the Pan-African Parliament, and I saw the president of the Pan-African Parliament, Roger Nkoduda. How do you consider such initiatives to mobilize resources for equipping hospitals and providing universal health care on the continent?
Financing health, I think, was not only discussed in the Pan-African Parliament, but it was an issue during the summit, the African Union Summit in February. And when the heads of states and heads of government of Africa agreed to focus on universal health coverage, and especially focus on primary health care, and to increase domestic resource allocation for the health systems or health services. And that was, I think, very, very important, because when we talk about health care financing, we have to rely on our domestic resources, because whatever comes from outside is only a complement, money that comes from donors. The main source of the healthcare financing should be from domestic resources. And I was in the meeting in February when the leaders deliberated on this issue, and there was a consensus that countries in Africa should increase domestic resources. And I was so happy to see leaders really showing commitment. And as you know, health needs a political commitment. And that political commitment should bring resources. And the resource that can help in improving the services of healthcare.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, thank you very much indeed for talking to the Cameroon Radio Television.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are welcome, Mr. Director General.